Hello, Tim here, and welcome to the group video critique of my attendee paintings from my recent workshop where we painted the wetlands area of Holywell Bay in Cornwall. More on the source photo shortly. So I'm going to be going through the attendee paintings that have been sent to me one by one and giving some helpful feedback to those. I'll be specifically looking for a few things. So first of all, composition from my source photo. Then, have we got a sense of depth with the background hills village? Maybe a little bit of individuality, if that's the right word, just to see those of the attendees that have done their own thing and not just sort of copied the photo or copied me, just put their own little sparkle on it. The reflection in the pool in the foreground. The greens, there's a lot of greens in the photo, in the source scene. Lots of grasses, different foliage effects, the tussocks of grass on the distant hills. So lots of greens there and sort of making different marks for foliage. And then also edges. Edges always important, a mixture of soft and hard edges. So I'm going to go through and just review the source photo for you, first of all, just to do a recap of the source. Then I'll show you my demo painting that I did during the live demo, and then we'll go through the attendee paintings one by one. This is my source photo, the wetlands area of Holywell Bay in Cornwall, UK, and an area of natural meadowland that's sort of sandwiched between the sand dunes just behind the beach down there in Cornwall and the village of Holywell Bay high up on the hill. So a very important area, lots of different wildflowers growing, pools, little streams, tussocks of grass as well. And I thought it made a really interesting subject in that we've got a sense of depth with the background hills there. Let me just zoom into the background hills, all those sand dunes towering above the wetland area. Over to the right, we've got a little bit of the village showing up and some houses there on the hillside. But over on the left, sense of depth with those hills, tall sand dunes. They go, I think, pretty much 3 kilometers along the coast there. Pretty extensive formation of sand dunes. But then you've got this protected area of the wetland itself and little pathways crisscrossing the area, tussocks of grass, wildflowers, these little pools. Yeah, a really nice subject to do. I think most people found it quite challenging. On the face of it, you think, oh, there's quite a simple scene, not much going on. Not particularly difficult or complex, but then when you get into it, it is quite difficult trying to pick out all of the different shapes and forms of the foliage and trying to get the greens right. That's always a difficult thing with watercolor, trying to get a realistic shade of green for all the different foliage that we see there and the distant hills. So that's the source photo. Let's go into my demo painting then on the day. And I'm fairly pleased with the result. I made the pool in the foreground a little bit bigger, and so I could play a little bit more on those reflections. Then those greens, more vibrant, a stronger saturated green, warmer greens in the foreground, but then going into the distance, going a little bit lighter, a little bit cooler. Trying to get the forms of these different mounds and tussocks of grass. I use primarily a 1/2-inch flat brush for getting those marks and a mixture of hard and soft edges. Where can I show you that? So, for example, around this clump here, that hard edge, and then using that flat brush to, almost like a dry brush technique, to get that soft edge at the top of the shadow. Little clumps of pathway exposed there as well, using a tiny bit of white paint for some of the flower heads of the wildflowers, and then going into the distance, as I say, getting cooler and a little bit lighter in value to try and give you the sense of depth, and a little bit of the blue there to try and accentuate that. And then over on the right-hand side, top right-hand side, in between different rows of trees, some rooftops appearing just to give the impression of some little village or habitation up there on the top right. So that's my painting. Let's go through the attendee paintings one by one. First up then, Albertus, and good composition. You've got, I quite like that little bit of lightness in the middle there. I don't know whether you've done a bit of lifting off there, but it has a bit of mystery to it, that very soft, lighter area. Anyway, good job on the tussocks of grass. You've definitely got the feeling of the blades of grass there. We've got the sense of depth. You've done that nicely with the lighter value in the distance and the feeling of the rooftops there on that right-hand side. Yeah, maybe there could be just a slightly more horizontal edge to the back of the wetland area where it kind of levels off, or where it goes into that hilly area, from the level area to the hilly area. So a little bit, and maybe a bit more horizontal there. Yeah, nice one, Albertus. Particularly like your foliage. Brilliant. And Andrew. Good composition. We maybe could have gone, as regards depth, maybe we could have gone a little bit cooler, a little bit lighter with the distant hills. And also trying to create a definition of the back of the wetlands, like with Albertus, where it's level, then all of a sudden it starts going up the hill. Perhaps you could have defined the rooftops just a little bit more, bit lighter for those rooftops. And then coming nearest, we've got a lovely different variety of greens. I love that yellowy green there. Just be careful with the white paint where you've got perhaps the mixture or the ratio of water to pigment, just a little bit too much water, where it goes that sort of milky colour. And then what happens as it dries, it goes a little bit darker and you get that kind of white rim around the edge there. But I like it. You certainly captured the feeling of the place. Well done, Andrew. And Anna. Nice composition. I really like the bold shape of the mounds of the grasses there. Perhaps with the distant hills there could be some softer edges. These edges up here, and maybe some of those could be a little bit softer, and perhaps also not so dark with the distant hills as well. But on the whole, you've certainly got the feeling of depth there. And then all the different textures of the grasses coming towards us. Yeah, I really do like the mounds that you've got and the reflection in the pool. And these very thin brush marks on the right-hand side, giving the impression of the blades of grass. Yeah, very effective. Thank you, Anna. And Anne. Good composition, nice size of pool, very good job on the mounds of grasses. Certainly got the feeling of the texture of the grasses going towards the hills. I think those hills are a little bit too dark. They could have gone a bit lighter. And also, again, think about some of those softer edges where you've got these trees here, these rows of trees. Just go maybe a little bit softer on the edge there. Good job on that little house there, bit of a rooftop catching the light. Yeah, very, very convincing colour of the sand as well. Well done, Anne. And Ashley. I should say on all these attendee photos, just bear in mind that they're all taken by the attendees on their own devices, whether it be a camera or a phone. So we're going to have a variety of sizes and resolutions and lighting conditions as well. So just bear that in mind as we go through. Right, very striking greens in this one. You've moved the horizon up quite high, so you've made more of a feature of that pool. Lovely light coming into the middle of that pool with the reflection of the sun there. I do like that. Yeah, it's very nice. It's my eyes immediately go to that area, and then you've got that darker blue going to the outside of that reflection. Yeah, lovely greens. Certainly got the feeling of the texture. Maybe we could have done a bit more with the sort of rounded shapes, the mounds of the grasses with your brush marks. And good job with the hills in the background as well. Not so sure about this darker bit here. I think that might be a little bit too strong. It's a similar value to the greens in the foreground. So if that was a little bit cooler, a little bit lighter, a bit of blue in there, that would have moved it back actually. But lovely, lovely loose watercolor. Well done. And Barb. Nice composition. Now Barb's actually included those wildflowers coming in from the left-hand side. I'm not exactly sure what they are, sort of bishop's weed or something like that, but that's actually very effective. When I did the demo, I decided not to include that. I just thought it was a bit too much detail there on the left-hand side, but I think it frames it quite nicely there. Yeah, that's come out really well. Lovely pool. The soft reflections in that pool, the light in the middle, that clump of sand exposed there, the grasses that you've got, very nice. Perhaps the background just a little bit too dark, could be a little bit lighter, a little bit cooler to push that back. Good job on the rooftops catching the light. Yeah, well done, Bob. Well, I do like that clump there as well. Yeah, well done. And Becky. Now, I really have got a feeling of fluffy softness of the wildflowers here. I do like that this area here, particularly because that's where that little area of sand was, a pathway that we could just see there, and it's sort of like a clearing. But yours looks like it's sort of a group of pink fluorescent, sort of wild pink flowers in a way. Yeah, overall we've got a great feeling of softness. I like the way you've done the background hills. Maybe we don't have the feeling of that sort of really level area between the pool here and the distant sand dunes, but I like it. It's a really, really nice sort of atmosphere about it, and softness and tranquility, particularly that area there. Yeah, and also mixture of greens, yellow, cooler greens, darker greens. Yeah, fantastic. Well done, Becky. Bronwin. First up with a figure and two dogs. It's a very popular area for dog walkers and people walking around and hiking. And I think the Cornwall or the Cornish coastal path goes very close here, right through the area. But very popular walkers. And it's always good to have a figure in the scene for some indication of the size. Maybe the figure might be just a little bit too small. Could be a bit bigger, but I do like it. Well done. And it's an immediate focal point in there. You've got the sense of depth there in the background. We're missing perhaps a little bit of the rooftops, the village there on the right-hand side. But it doesn't matter. But certainly we've got the sense of depth. The grasses are very good indeed. Maybe we haven't got the feeling of those sort of tight mounds of grass, but certainly you can sense there's a lot of foliage and wildflowers and different types of grass, particularly in that right-hand corner. Good job on the pool as well. Nice reflections of those grasses. Let's just zoom into that figure. Yep, good figure. Set movement with the dogs as well. Very good. Thank you, Bronwin. And next is Christie. My eyes immediately went to the background. It's nice composition. The balance of the scene, very nice indeed. Certainly you've got the feeling of the mounds of grasses. You picked up on a little bit of maybe there was a hut or some kind of lean-to roof there in the middle. I think that's quite a nice position for that light. I like that bit of softness there. Could be where there was a little bit of light area of the sand dune in the distance, the sand dunes in the distance just catching the light. And these dry brush marks as well, just giving you the feeling of the gradient of that hill. And then another dry brush mark there, giving the level, giving the feeling of the level plain, the pasture coming towards us. Yeah, lovely. And I like the way that you've done the distant village as well. Just very cool, push it back, and then just that impression of a few rooftops, sort of those 45-degree angled rooftops. Thanks very much, Christie. And Colin. I think there's a couple of Collins actually. Colin K. Good composition. I like the way that you've got the different variety of greens there. With the marks of the darker shady marks here, perhaps they're all a similar size. Perhaps they could have been a little bit, to give you the feeling of the larger mounds in the foreground, perhaps some of those darker shapes would be larger, and then as we go into the distance, like you got there in the middle, these are good. Those narrower, smaller marks, that certainly gives you the idea of those the distant mounds of grass going over towards the sand dunes. Just be careful of too many hard edges on the distant hills, but certainly it is the right kind of value and coolness to push that back, give you the sense of depth. I like the reflection. Well, we've got that nice glow in the middle, and then the darker blue on the left-hand side, and then little bits, as so many of you have done, we've seen already, the heavier body colour with a thin brush, just to give you those little blades of grass. Particularly, stands out particularly well, like here on Colin's, the lighter blades of grass against the darker background. And Colin number 2. This is a softer feeling to it. I like the blue that you've got in those distant hills. If I just zoom in, that blue there really does push it back. Perhaps it could have been a softer transition, Colin, between that blue and the level meadow, the partial end coming towards us. Nice colour for that sand there, little footprints, and good brush marks for the clumps of the grasses as well. Very effective. Nice brush marks with the reflections as well. Excellent. Well done, Colin. And Elizabeth. Yeah, I like a nice composition. We've got a very much, perhaps a little bit of a longer pathway or stream going diagonally across the scene. I think that's quite nice. You've extended that, and it sort of balances it quite nicely with that triangle of the sand dune there. I think there could be more soft edges in this, Elizabeth. Just to I think some of those hard edges, particularly in the distance, are a little bit too hard. I think if they're a bit softer, you could almost now go in there and just with a small synthetic brush and a little bit of dampness on the brush, just tease out these areas. And that might push that back a little bit more. Lovely variety of greens though. But I do like that composition of this longer, almost like a stream, going diagonally over to the right, and then that little triangle there. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Our next workshop, we're going to be painting something totally different. This is the road leading up to the covered bazaar in Istanbul, Kapalı Çarşı, and a really busy street scene. Lots of different ranges of values, lots of lights, lots of darker darks. Very complex scene. We're going to be tackling perspective. We've got to get the feeling of the slight rise of the road, where it rises up to the market area, the main market area. We've got different architectural things to contend with, the minaret, the dome of the mosque there, the blinds coming down. How do we deal with the complexity of all of the produce there on sale and all of these different figures as well? So hopefully you can join me, open to watercolour painters of any level, and it will be a step-by-step paint-along demo with me leading, and I'll give plenty of commentary along the way. If you want to take part, just go to my website, timwilmotartist.com, for more details, or go to my event website, which is crowdcast.io/@timwilmot, the @ symbol, TIMWILMOT. Happy to see you along. Hopefully catch up with you in Istanbul. And Engin. Yeah, nice composition. I like the way that you've done the background, in that we've got, it's a sort of similar height to the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Perhaps we don't have the feeling of depth. If you'd have gone a little bit cooler with those greens, lighter with those greens, that would have pushed it back a little bit more. I do like the balance with the seagulls, the birds in the sky there. Some darker seabirds, lighter seabirds to give me a sense of depth. Perhaps the lighter seabirds could be just a little bit smaller to push them back a bit more. Ease off, I would say ease off on the white paint just a little bit, but we've got a good variety of greens there. Light greens, yellowy greens, darker greens. And the pool there perfectly placed as well. Nice brush marks also. Yeah, just ease off a little bit on the white paint there, thinking. But I do like your placement of birds. Well done. Fazia, right. Ooh, a lovely soft feeling to this. I like the brush marks. The distant hills are very good. You've gone a little bit warmer with those hills, but we still got the sense of depth because they're a light, zoom in, they're like a light red and softer edges as well. But the transparency is showing through. We're kind of exploiting what watercolor does. Look at all these different tapestry of different colors there, which we would find in this wildflower meadow. The reflections, yes, reflections are good. Not so sure about that shape there. Could be a little bit, well, we've got lots of hard edges in that light reflection. Maybe a bit softer there might give us a bit more of a glow. But I do like the brush marks and that pinkish tone, pinkish hue in the distance there, and the transparency of your washes. Well done, Fazia and Fiona. Let's just zoom in a bit more. Nicely framed, nicely mounted and framed. Let's just zoom in a bit more. There we go. Oops, back out a bit more. Right. Yeah, I do like the composition. You've gone for more of a sort of level feeling to this, and a bit of a sort of shallow, grassy beach sort of coming down to the pool. Certainly got the feeling of the mounds of grasses, the way that you've done them. Let's just zoom into there with the brush marks, the brush shapes that you've done. And that softness is fantastic in the distance. We certainly have got the depth 100% with this, with the soft edge of the skyline and the values that you've chosen and the little areas. Like perhaps that shape there could have a little bit of a softer edge to it. It just sort of stands out a little bit too much, but feeling of depth and almost like a sort of sea mist coming in as well, which you would get down there with the Atlantic weather systems coming in. Excellent, Fiona, thank you. And Jean, nice composition, good feeling of depth. Perhaps it could be better if we went a little bit lighter with the hills and perhaps a few more softer edges in there. Also, just try and think of defining the horizontal level of the back of the wetland area, but then coming forwards, Yes, lovely mounds, different variety of greens. The grasses, the blades of the grass. Perhaps some of these grass blades could be a little bit lighter, a little bit darker, just to define them a bit more. They're a bit, they don't stand out so much. So if you'd have gone in like this area here, a little bit lighter with some of those grass blades, that would stand out more. Lovely reflection in the pool. I like that blue. It's fantastic. Yeah, excellent. Well done, Jean. And Joe, just to zoom in a bit more. Oh, Joe's gone for the sandy look in the distance, which, of course, the big sand, the high sand dunes there, they're covered in sand. But I think we need some larger patches of grass in the distance there, Joe. And just also be careful, some of the edges are a little bit too hard. I think we would be able to push it back more if we'd have gone a bit cooler and a bit softer with some of those edges. Certainly got the feeling of the level nature of the meadow, and then coming towards us nice and soft with the pool, the stream there. You've got a bit of a transparent hard edge there. If that was softened up, I think that would give us a much better transition from the grassy bank there into the pool. And also just consider a few blades of grass, particularly in that bottom right corner there, just to give you the feeling of the mounds of grass, and that would show up quite well against the lighter pool as well. We can just about see Joe's palette there on the right hand side. Thank you, Joe. And Kazim. Very nice. I love those greens. And the way in the background, those lighter little areas, they could be little ridges catching the light, could be pathways coming down the side of the sand dunes. Very effective, nice and soft. You've certainly got the feeling of depth. Perhaps again could have gone a little bit lighter with some of those darker areas, like that little bit there. Some of the peaks, just a tiny bit lighter, but the softness is fantastic, and almost like a few other attendees, you've got a feeling of mist sort of settling in the valleys there, a bit of early morning mist. The grassy area, fantastic. Oh yeah, really good, Kazim, the way that you've done the darker areas and getting the mixture of the hard and soft edges, like this area here. You're defining those mounds so well with that hard edge, darker value, hard edge. If I zoomed a bit more, darker value, hard edge, and then going lighter, and then a soft edge to the top of that shady side of the mound. Very good reflection, little bit of movement in the water. Yeah, very nice. Well done, Kazim. Leslie. That's a nice lively painting. We haven't got the feeling of the level, the back of the meadow being quite level. I think you've got the sense of depth, all right. Just a little bit too dark on some areas of the background hills, and just a few too many hard edges as well. Just try and get more of a mixture, more of a more soft edges on those background hills. The grassy area comes. You've got a good range of grasses. Perhaps you could have gone a little bit stronger with the values of greens you're using. For example, there in the distance, that green there would be better. That's a stronger green, and it would deserve its place more in the bottom right corner. And that lighter green there, that lighter, cooler green, that would be better in the distance, just to push it back a bit. So try and get a little bit stronger with the greens. I like the reflection. These brush marks you've got along that water's edge, they're superb. Nice and fresh, loose, gives you the sense of movement in the water. Yeah, nice one, Leslie. Thank you. And Lillian, very soft. I like it. And that little bit of softness, top left corner, where some of the paint of the background hills just bled into the sky a little bit. That could be the winds coming in from the west on that left-hand side, blowing some sand off the sort of peaks of the sand dunes. Yeah, we've certainly got the feeling of depth, nice composition. I like the softness here. We certainly have the impression of the height of these grassy mounds as well. They're almost like sort of vertical edge to those mounds, and then it levels off into the distance. I do like it. That's excellent. And then there are all these watercolor effects here, where you've glazed over a little bit of that area there, I think on top of a darker area. Yeah, and bottom right corner, all these sort of watercolor effects down here. Little bit of blooms blossoming. You've just exploited what watercolor does. Excellent. Thanks, Lillian. Liliana. Nice composition. With a sense of depth, you've got the right blues there, but maybe there's too many hard edges on those distant hills, and just a little bit too dark. For example, up there, Liliana. So try and go a little bit lighter, a little bit softer with those edges to push it back a bit. The way that you've done the grassy mounds, brilliant. I like it. Nice brush marks. Certainly got the feeling of those mounds of grasses. And then the actual shade of green is very realistic, very natural as well. I like these blades of grass as well. Bit of body colour, bit of thicker, opaque green paint. Shows up quite nicely against the darker background. And nice reflections in the pool. Yep, thank you, Liliana. And, oops, did we miss one out there? No. And Lynn. Nice composition. I like in the background, now I've been harking on about hard edges of the background a lot, over a lot of attendees' paintings, but I do like the marks you've got, the shapes of those darker areas there, Lynn, in the background. But if they were a little bit softer on the edges, it might just push them back a little bit. Certainly on the upper edge of those shapes, it was a little bit softer. Like the mounds of grass, we've got a hard edge where there's a ridge in front of it, and then a little bit of a softer edge as it's going up towards the light, and a ridge, the top bit of the ridge catching light. I like that little effect there, a bit of washed out area, or you dropped in some clear water, a bit of lifting out there and there, very effective. And then I like the blue up there in the top right corner as well. Yeah, a bit of, almost looks like a blob of lavender, very nice. Yeah, the frothy feeling of the foliage in the meadow, brilliant. And these mounds of grasses as well. Also, try and get the soft edge on the upper part of these darker shapes. For example, here, that could have been a softer edge there. And also just down here as well. All right. So just to give you the feeling of that sort of curved ball type shape of these clumps. Nice pool. Good reflections of the grasses as well. Yeah, but I do like the shape of those areas up there. That immediately caught my eye. Well done, Lynn. And Mary. Nice and soft. The way that you've done that background, I like it. I like the style. Certainly you've got the right value. These sort of this heavier opaque-ish colour that I guess you've put down on top of a darker surface. Very effective. And that soft skyline as well. That's another element that's going to help push it back. The thing that the actual technique that you've used there, like it. And then those brush marks, an economical use of brush marks, not too many. I like the green splattering here, shows up quite nicely. So you've used sort of quite thick green paint there, those blobs, but do show up against that darker background. That lighter green there, dry brush mark. Little depression there, a hollow, and then hard edge, soft edge. Again, more splattering down here. Very nice. And then a little bit of an area that's washed out near the lighter area of the reflection. Look at all the colours there, warms, cools going on. Excellent, Mary, well done. Like it. A lot of different watercolour techniques being shown there. Right, Mike. Yeah, nice composition. Mike, you've gone for more of the trail, the areas of sandy trail being shown up in the sort of isolated areas there and there. That works really well. Footprints as well. I like the background hills. Perhaps we could have gone a little bit softer with some of the edges around those darker shapes there, but that value is just right. Really does push it back. The soft greens as well, particularly on this left-hand side. Love all this. You haven't gone so dark as I did with some of my darker greens or the darks of the source photo, but I do like the little bit of sort of granulation that's happening here. Maybe your board was on a little bit of a slope, and I think it works really well. But the effect that you've got here, we haven't got the range of soft edges, but I do love the range of greens, the cool greens and the warmer greens. These warmer greens here, cool greens over the left-hand side. And then that reflection, perhaps with the reflection, the lighter area, we could have had some softer, just a few softer edges to that, and softer edges of some of the other marks on this right-hand side. Yeah, nice reflection. Oh, sorry, nice sunlit roofs in the distance also. Yeah, I do like that background. Fantastic background. What a Mike and Nidia. Oh, yeah. A good range of colours we've got in the background. We've got warms, cools, a large sort of light, soft area here, which could be some sort of white, fluffy flowers, soft flower heads. The sense of volume you've got with the mounds of grass is spectacular. They are so good. Let's just zoom into, well, this one here on the right-hand side. That edge there, perfect. And then the green coming into a cooler wash, and then the darks nearest to us. Brilliant. And then if I zoom over to the left-hand side or pan over to the left, and what's going on here? Look at all the variety of edges, shapes, colours, values. Look at this, what watercolour does, that kind of, this kind of, almost like the roots of a tree, that sort of staining coming down into that bush. But it really does help give you a sort of natural feeling to that, that kind of plant there, or mound of grass, or whatever it is. Yeah, very nice. Thanks, Nidia. And Peter, let's zoom into Peter's. Excellent. Good composition. The background hills could be a little bit cooler in places, and also softer edges, and also try and get that horizontal feeling with the back of the meadow before it joins with the sand dunes and the village. I like the brush marks. Could get a little bit of a softer top edge to some of those shady areas there. A little bit, Peter. Paul, fantastic. You've got that lighter patch very nicely done. Perhaps some of these reflections on that left-hand side could come down just a little bit more, just to give you the feeling of the height of that mound on that left-hand side. Love this. The way that you've done that, these cools and the browns and the greens in there. Very effective, sort of gives you some bit of mystery, bit of atmosphere going on there in that little gap. Yeah, and I like the way that you've done the village as well. We've got the light hitting the rooftops. Well done, Peter. And Ravi. Nice composition. Got the sense of depth. I think that little depression there could be a bit softer. That line there, just a little bit soft on the edge, but you've certainly got the sense of depth and also the gradual smooth transition of the green to the cooler topsphere. I like it. Don't have any rooftops as such on the right hand. Oh, there's a little one there. Perhaps we could have had the feeling of the village up there a little bit more. Good impression of the level meadowland coming towards us and the different horizontal soft marks that you've got. And then these mounds of grasses coming towards us. That green is fantastic. Just a nice bright green just to bring it forward to us. More of a sort of golden colour there. Perhaps more of the colour of late season grasses. And I like also you used a lot of white paint. Just be careful again of the ratio of water to any white gouache or white pigment you're using, because you get that like a few of others, and it happens to me as well. It dries like this area here. It dries a little bit darker than you think, and you end up with this sort of milky white edge to it. It looks it's not as good as these marks here. They're better marks, although that's just a little bit too dry. There is a bit of a knack to mixing your opaques and gouache colours. That's better there. That's a better mark, Ravi. There. Yeah, super greens. You've certainly got the feeling of the mounds of the grasses there in the foreground and the pool, the light glowing in the pool. Excellent. Well done, Ravi. I like the shape of that little valley there as well. It's sort of like a plateau going over the right. Yeah. Thanks, Ravi. And Roger. Oh, this is a different style. Very bold. I like the sort of repetitive patterns. Perhaps with the size of these mounds, they could be a little bit larger, closer to us. For example, on that left-hand side there, Roger, and then getting a little bit smaller towards the distance. But I do like that kind of pattern of the repeating shapes of the way that you've done those clumps. It's a nice style. And then the feeling of the middle area where it levels off. You've got the depth of the distant hills perfectly. Perhaps could go a little bit softer on the edge or a little bit lighter at the top there, but that's just the right value, and the impression of a little bit of foliage at the back of the meadow. Yeah, very good. I think where you've got sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas, 5 key areas of the composition. Just consider putting in some vertical marks just to connect those different areas together, so they're not sort of disjointed. For example, there could be some taller grasses here just to connect. Do you see what I mean? Connect a little bit more that area, and grasses coming up here just to kind of connect things a little bit more. But that's a lovely texture that you've got to those grasses. They're beautiful. Just to zoom into one. I like it. Yeah, thanks, Roger. And Sally. Nice and loose. I love the brush marks going on here in the middle. Beautiful brush marks. Right, composition, good. Nice composition. Certainly got the feeling of depth in the distance. Perhaps we could have gone a little bit softer with some of the edges of the darker shapes in the background. I like that, the way that you've done that hill there, a little bit of transparent colour on a little bit of transparent layers on top of each other. But certainly got the feeling of depth and the feeling of a little bit of sand creeping into those sand dunes. And then this lively marshland coming towards us. Perhaps we could have gone a little bit more just a tiny bit more horizontal with the back of the meadow. But you've certainly got the feeling of these mounds of grasses coming towards us. Yeah, and the way that you've done your brush marks as well, almost they're all going in a similar direction from bottom left to top right. I like it. I like that sort of, again, that sort of repetitive pattern of those marks. Just you're exploiting what watercolor does, this transparency also. Beautiful. Don't know how you managed to do that. That's a lovely shape, that lighter area and then that darker area, but that edge there. And then what? Light, dark, light, dark. Yeah, very nice. Well done, Sally. And Sandra. Yeah, a nice composition. You've sort of accentuated the peaks on the sand dunes. I think that works really well, actually. Nothing stopping you just, I mean, they are going to change in shape, aren't they, over time? But I do like the couple of peaks there, and just the right kind of angle as well. So you've got the lower one towards the middle. And then on the right-hand side, the impression of the village. Yep, certainly got the feeling of depth. Nice composition. The mounds of grasses, I would say just try and get a few softer edges on some of them. But on the whole, I do like the style that you've got there. This right-hand edge here, perhaps it's a little bit, that edge there is just a little bit too straight. Maybe just consider having more of a natural edge to it, something like that, for example. Lovely reflections in the pool. Very nice, and that sort of warmish reflection there, the reflections of the grasses, a little bit of lifting out there. Very nice. Yeah, but I do like the couple of peaks there. Well done, Sandra. And Saro. Yes, lovely. Ooh, my eyes immediately go down here. That kind of softness that you've got in there, that shape of that mound, the way that you've got a soft edge to the shadow coming over that mound, that bit of coolness there as well, that I did with a little bit of lavender in mine, but you've done the same, sir. I think it works really well, just to give you some sort of atmosphere in that bottom left-hand corner. Certainly got the feeling of depth. Love the coolness there. You've got really cool, those greens in the background. I like it. So the sand dunes on the left-hand side, perhaps we could have got a few more softer edges on some of the edges there, but I do like it. And then the village on the right-hand side, and then the sort of level nature of the middle ground. Very nice indeed. And that soft glow. Brilliant. Yeah, lovely one. Well done, Saro. And Sheila. Very nice composition. The sense of depth. You've got the sense of depth. Perhaps with the background hills, could have gone a little bit cooler, a little bit bluer with some of those hills. And also these houses here, they just stand out just a little bit more. I think if we didn't have those sort of silhouetted there on the ridge, it would look a little bit better. But you certainly got the sense of depth, but it could have gone a little bit cooler, and that would have pushed it back a bit more. Coming towards us, the light value, the middle area there, yeah, very effective. And then the brushwork that you've done for the grasses, particularly well done here on this right-hand side. That shape there that you've got, this mound, and then the brush marks you've used, the more gouache opaque grass, the blades of grass, that's turned out really well. You've got the right ratio there, pretty much, of water to pigment. That is just right. And the sort of the way that you've expressed the sort of flower head of the grasses as well. Yeah, very nice. The pool. Yep, nice shape to the pool and the reflection. Maybe just a little bit of a darker edge. Perhaps we could have got more of a, going from light to a little bit dark in a more of a gradual way, around that dark, that little bit of a darkness around there. But on the whole, good job on the pool and the reflections as well. Yeah, well done, Sheila. And Susan, very lively. I like that sky. I mean, most of us went for a fairly light sky, but you've got a very atmospheric sky there with some storm type clouds coming over and a slightly warm feeling to those clouds as well. The distant hills, brilliant. I do like it. Yeah, we haven't got the sense of the village there on the right hand side, but that kind of shape you've got coming down, then the gap, then going up, very nice indeed. And then the foliage coming towards us, excellent. Different shades of green, values. We've got the edges. I think it's turned out maybe a little bit better there in that area. And also the other area I like is that on the left hand side. A bit like Fasia's, those sort of the transparency of the different layers that you've got and the different colours. Yellow there, a bit of red, the greens obviously, blues. Yep, nice reflection of the pool. We've got the bright light coming through, lively brush marks down here, the way that you've got these brush marks sort of circulating around that pool as well. Excellent. Well done, Susan. Last up is Vienti. And, oh, very loose. Like it. Yeah, different interpretation. Nice composition. You've made the pool a little bit smaller. I like your paper, by the way. Lovely paper. Those background hills. Now, the background hills, they're a little bit too vivid. The green's a bit too strong. I think if you'd have, like that blue there, that's a better value. That's the right coolness to push it back, Vienti. So we got that sense of depth. But from a watercolor point of view, very nice, different technique. And again, you're exploiting what watercolor does. I like the feeling of that kind of horizontal plateau here, where you've got the tops of shapes it starts over there. Flat, 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 flat. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, and it's so nice to see everyone's different take on this wetland scene. Hopefully you've seen lots of different techniques there that you too could exploit yourselves in your own watercolours. But thanks very much all of my attendees that attended. And I'd like to, I look forward to and like to see you on our next workshop where we are painting Istanbul and the road up to the covered market. Thanks for watching. Catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.